inside the chamber, and we're going to talk about concussions and hyperbarics. There was a study done not too long ago. Let me pull it up on my screen here. This was done in March of 2021, and it is in the International Journal of Athletic Therapy and Training. It's called Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy to Treat Acute Sports-Related Traumatic Brain Injuries, a Case Series. So a case series is we only have a few subjects. Sometimes when you do experiments, you can't get a lot of participants. And it's kind of to show that, hey, there might be something more here. We probably should do bigger studies, but something has to start the ball rolling. So case series, case studies, they're important. They show a single person or a few people's progress through a intervention. And with that, we can then decide to do bigger studies. So I'm going to show you the screen because what I'm going to show you is something that's important to know in research of how things can get mistaken or misinterpreted, because the numbers are what the numbers are. You know, math doesn't lie. 2 plus 2 is 4. It can't be 5. It won't be 3. But how you interpret those numbers is the important factor. And that's where things get mixed up. There is no truth in science. There's only more questions. So I'm going to switch the screen over here and show you a chart. The first thing you want to look at is when you look at participants. These are the people that were in this study. And what you look at is group, they did just oxygen, they did hyperbaric pressure with room air, and they did hyperbaric with oxygen. So there were 3 people with just oxygen, 2 people with hyperbaric air, and 3 people with hyperbaric oxygen. So not bad. You're trying to show different controls, different groups to compare which one does better. Some of the studies say you need the oxygen, some say you don't need the oxygen, some say you need pressure, more pressure, less pressure. So they're trying to separate a couple different variables and see what they get. They did this with high school age kids, high school athletes, aged 15 to 18. So again, not too bad. They got a few females and a few males, but notice oxygen, 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 female and male, but hyperbaric with oxygen only went to the males. So right off the bat, you got a little bit of a difference, because again, we don't know if there'll be a difference between men and women when it comes to this. So you have to know that the research data may be skewed because only the men got the hyperbaric with oxygen. Then as we come across different sports, again, a concussion is a concussion. It doesn't matter how you got it, but that may be a factor. We don't know. Previous concussions. This poor girl, this is her 4th. Actually, this is her 5th. It's 4 previous concussions. That probably will make a difference. These guys, 0 or 1. So again, you can compare all the zeros. They've never had a concussion before, but the kid who has 4, maybe she just knows how to deal with it better. Days between injury and the first treatment, again, that's good. They've kept it below 5. You know, some of the research that we've seen says that if you can get into a hyperbaric chamber in the first 5 days, you're going to stop the wound from bruising, stop the inflammation. That's a huge important factor. If you stop the inflammation and you stop the bruising, there's less to heal. The body does a better job. So I like the fact that they got in very quick. But here's what we notice. So our baseball player, who actually got the hyperbaric with oxygen, had a symptom reduction score of 72. When we looked at the graph, which was up here, this one poor kid, oh, sorry, not up there, it was down here. This one poor kid was way up here on the scale. Everybody else was down here. This is known as a symptom outlier. He will skew the data. So if we change it to house prices, if every house in the neighborhood cost $300,000 and there was one that cost $1 million, that skews the average way off by having one outlier. So again, right off the bat, we have several things we have to take into consideration when we look at this research. One is that only the men got the hyperbaric with oxygen. One kid had a lot of previous concussions, and one kid was an outlier for symptoms. So with those things being considered, what were the results of this study? Well, the results of this study were pretty good. Basically, they said, if you can get these kids into the hyperbaric chamber within the first 5 days of getting their concussion, they heal pretty well. Do they heal better with oxygen out of the chamber? Do they heal better with no oxygen in the chamber? Do they heal better with oxygen in the chamber? This study is not going to give you that answer. People look to research to give them answers, and it doesn't. It simply says, let's ask more questions. Let's get more people. What it did say was, these kids did better if they got in the first 5 days. Because we know that if you get in the first 5 days, the wound is less severe. That's what hyperbarics does. More oxygen, less inflammation, less bruising, less brain damage. I, for one, would want my kid to have less damage rather than teach them how to deal with that damage weeks and months later, which most concussion protocols do. They teach you how to deal with the wound. If you broke your leg and you just sat around and let it heal, it would heal. Most likely crooked. And then we could teach you how to walk on a crooked leg or throw with a crooked arm. But that's not what we want for our kids. We want them to heal as best as they can, which means get that leg set. Get that broken arm set early so it heals straight. Then we don't have to worry about teaching them how to deal with a crooked arm or leg. It heals correctly. Let's get these concussion kids into a hyperbaric chamber and let the brain heal. Then we won't have to teach them how to deal with a bruised brain.